Hey, Kliq This fans, want to get closer to the show than ever? Join Kliq This TV. Kliq This TV offers early commercial-free access to wrestling's hottest podcast, plus live audience tapings of their show every friggin' week. Head to kliqthistv.com now and get inside the show that's just too sweet.
The following podcast contains mature language and adult discussion.
Kev, I wish they would make these colostrums with like a little shot of caffeine, maybe.
That wouldn't be bad, right?
Like an energy drink. In addition to getting your nutrients from the colostrum, you get a little goose, a little something for these days when I'm sitting here talking to you. Oh wait, it's Monday morning at 7, so it's very early right now. That's why.
That's what it is. It's you haven't had your coffee.
Right. I got to get gassed so I could stay up for Raw tonight and see where it's going. See where it's going this week. It's funny when we talked about this show, Kev, like 3 years. Well, no, actually, I found the first communication between us about this show. You know what year it was?
22?
January 2018.
Wow.
Yeah. The first file I made with some artwork was January 2018. So the every 3 months text at 2:47 a.m. from you that said, "Me and you podcast, call tomorrow." That started probably in 2015, but when we got serious, it was 2018. But we always went like, we're not going to be one of these people that cover Raw every week, and I don't think we do. Right? Am I safe in saying that?
I think we do though, because
for 8 minutes we cover it.
Yeah, but I mean we still
bullet point.
We still cover it because, especially since like I know that I watch it so much more now that it's on Netflix, because I don't have to go to my DVR and like there were times sometimes when Tamara will have 2 or 3 things that she's got taping, and I've got a sporting event taping, and then stuff would get bumped. So
right now it's just sitting on your Netflix. You can jump in at any time. When you watch now, Kev, do you because of your friendship with Paul, when you watch the product and you talk and you think about the decisions that are being made with certain characters or anything creative, do you think Paul? Do you go, attaboy, that's good, I see what you're doing there? Or are you so removed, or is it like, can you watch it with new eyes and not think that Paul's in control?
I know that he's in control, but I also know that he delegates a lot of what goes on that television show. I mean, it's so... the process is always going to be, it starts with the writing room and with the head of creative being Paul. And they're going to, and I'm sure that they've got this thing thumbnailed kind of, to SummerSlam, at least, to where, the storylines are going. And then it's fill in the blanks, then it's, attention to detail. But, no matter how much you've got done, you're still handing it off to the producer of the segment, So I give it to Robert Roode, say. And then he's got to produce the 2 guys. So there's so many clogs in the wheel there that...
So how much would be given to Roode? Like they decide that on the road to whatever the pay-per-view is 2 months away, we need a confrontation tonight between wrestler A, wrestler B. Is it rudes then?
No, I think that they're given that. I shouldn't even open my mouth because I don't know because I'm not around there, so it would just be.
Well, it couldn't have changed that much when you were in a writing room.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah,
it could change because the last time I was there and Vince was in charge, and CM Punk and I were waiting while the pyro went off to get the final copy of our verbiage, which I didn't have any, but he was waiting for his. So I guess, but I mean, it was completely. I know that's not the animal that exists now. I know that people, because I watch clips of Paul and he's going over, everybody's entrance and he's at the point where he's got enough soldiers doing the work underneath him that he's doing because we've always when we sat in the car, all of us, we always say there's 3 parts to the match. The first one is the first note of your music, which the crowd pops on that. The second thing is when the crowd sees you for the first time, your entrance. And then the third time is when you get in and you lock up. So there's 3 different.
I want to take notes on that. Go ahead. So that was 3 parts to the entrance.
Yeah, just the entrance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Music cue. Visual.
And then
and lock up.
Well, I mean, but a lot of guys have the visual. And then they've got, where Randy does the thing in the corner, or Diesel did
a little signature thing, right?
Like they do so, and then there's pieces to that. And of course, when it's WrestleMania, then you've got, whether somebody's getting out of a limousine, or somebody's doing this, or somebody's doing that, or the lighting. Like I watched a clip of Paul going over the Iron Man Cody Rhodes situation, when he would open it and how I watched the precision that they went over that on the internet. So
was that the no I was thinking of I saw a clip of him with Penta, right? Wasn't there one of him and Penta?
That was a long time ago that he was doing. Yeah, I've seen the one since then. Just to have him but I saw Damien, we had him standing at a certain place where he's going to, and even Cody, I think, was being underlit. He was either being underlit or being lit on top of just a spot when I think that Iron Man gimmick opened, and he needed, so.
Dude, you see these entrances we're talking about like this, which are like cinematic, and it's like the Stones coming on stage, right? And then you contrast it to flashback Vince going, all right, then Dink is going to come out and on a tricycle and wheel around you for a little bit, Kev.
Yeah. No,
different times, bro.
Yeah, and to me, it's very hard for me to listen to, the controversy of, why wasn't Dwayne there and da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, motherfucking, it's the NFL. There's not another game. This is it. Right. How many bad calls do the referees make for Kansas City throughout the whole year? And it's and that's it. I'm not watching.
Well, then you're not watching football.
I'm not watching football. That's it. I'm gonna wait for the USFL to come back around and see is the USFL, is the rules the first one to fucking 11? Every time I turn the game on, it's 8-6.
Baseball scores.
Yeah, it's like.
But you said something about Paul delegating, and that's always the fear, right? In any company, because you have a signature, you have a vision, and of course you're going to shape it always. But when you have to turn it over and say, all right, I got to handle this part of the show now. I got to be in a different mindset. They're going to run with it. Do you think, just knowing him personally, we have a little insight here because you know him personally, as opposed to every other show that debates every decision made in WWE. You're a phone call away. Do you think he's good at that?
Yes.
About giving you freedom, you being a writer, I mean.
Well, I mean, he put Ed Koskey over huge at the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as the lead writer. He put Michael Hayes over huge. Michael Hayes over huge. He put over Pat. You know.
That's publicly, though. Behind closed doors, will he say, run with it?
Yeah, because I know for a fact, talking to some of the guys that are the producers, that are just, when Paul took over and had that spot, and Vince was no longer in the picture, how drastically things changed, like night and day, like in 24 hours. And then, and you've also got, you've got Paul's vision, the writer's vision, which those two have to coexist. And then you go to production meeting, and that's laid out. Your agents are in there, or they're now called producers. Mm-hmm. And then the producers have got to take that and go give it to the talent. And then the last, and probably the most vital of all of it, is the talent has to they got to deliver.
And they got to go along with it.
Yeah, but
they have ideas too, right?
So, but they have to deliver. You know, they've got to deliver there's so many times you'll come up with something, and one or two things will be misinterpreted or fucked up or whatever, and it's like, well, on paper that was a lot better, you know.
Mm-hmm. And who gets the blame when everyone comes backstage? When everybody hits the locker room, does everyone look over at the producer and go,
No, I think that, I mean, if it's a shit show, I'm sure that, I don't think Paul's not the kind of person that's going to fucking lay into somebody. That's not his temperament. I think that he's more, he would be more, you know. And if it's not the last segment, then it's there's no time to go on to the next, and then, you know, maybe Paul's got, you know, somebody. I think that's where like a Heyman probably falls in, or somebody else that can, like, what the fuck happened. So
Vince was a what the fuck happened guy, though.
He was what the fuck happened when you came through the curtain. Exactly,
that's what I mean.
Yeah. No, there's you see the clip of Lesnar throwing the belt at him when he comes through the curtain. You know,
in Gorilla, right?
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen to Paul.
Right. So Paul, if you look at his executive career, right? Now, I'm not talking about the in-ring stuff, but from 2010. When I think his official role was executive senior advisor, kind of given an office, like that's when I guess it was decided that we got to put him on a track to someday have major influence. He wasn't doing anything creative at the time. He does become actually executive VP of talent and live events in 2011, but at that time, that's not creative, right?
I mean, but boy, I tell you, when you're in charge of live events, that's huge.
But you're working though in concert with,
because that's back when, you know, you look at the breakdown now, and, you know, WWF, you know, on tour near you, and it's Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, Backlash. You know, it's everything that they do now is a televised event.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
when he started like talent development in 2020, which
And what time when did he start NXT? When was he?
Yeah, what was the formal start date?
2012 was NXT. So when he was in charge of live events and basically at that point they were teaching a specific way to break in new talent, because that was one thing that they were having the hardest time was they'd get a guy that had worked the indies for 6 years and they were having to basically strip all the
bad habits.
Yeah, and it was
teach them main event stuff.
So that was one of the things I remember talking to Paul early about. That was him saying, like, we need to, teach across the board a kind of style, a kind of psychology, a philosophy. So,
but it's the performance center at that time, right?
Right. It still is.
So is training? Is he overseeing the training of the guys always in his 2013 role as like executive?
I think
vice
he was
president?
still on the road a lot. At that point, he was still talent
because of the live events.
Yeah,
position,
talent
right?
wise.
Yeah.
And he was still. I mean, they were still working house shows.
Right.
There was still, like, if you were on Raw, you would go out and work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Raw. Then you were done.
Yeah. Just think of all the facets in the company, and there must be a lot of overlap when somebody gets a title who's in charge of one thing. You got it. If you're doing, like you said before, if you're doing live events, you're planning live events, someone's covering travel, you got to know what creative's doing. You got to have, if you're in charge of talent too, you got to have talent ready. If you're debuting somebody, there's probably, so I would love somebody to do an extensive documentary about multi-series documentary, multi-episode series.
Well, when you look at
every facet of that company,
look at a show like Hard Knocks that HBO does. That's just fucking spring training.
Yeah.
Like preseason. Like that's your preseason. 8 weeks or whatever the fuck it is before you go into your first game. And you think about in 2012 up until like even 2016 or 17, there were still guys that were in developmental that had been down there 3 years, that hadn't like worked their way to the main roster. Whereas, and when I broke in, like basically broke in 90. So by 93, like after 3 years, if you haven't hooked on, you're pretty much done.
Yeah.
And there were still guys that they were, that they were kind of still spoon feeding and when we broke in, there was no pay. There was no pay. There was, there wasn't shit. So
yeah, Kev, let me just halt the discussion here for 1 minute because I'm feeling very good in my true classic jeans right now. And I just want to excitedly exclaim that True Classic has one mission. Make sure guys look good and feel even better, okay? And what have they done? They focused on fit. That's the thing. That's the thing that a guy my age needs, okay? I'm not all gassed to the gills here. I need something that helps me helps my body look human and maybe perhaps even good. I won't jump to attractive. I'll say good. So what have they done? They focused on fit. Feel also, their t-shirt, Kevin calls them the hanging t-shirts, and Kev, that was such a good observation by you. They feel good, and you know what? With each wash, they're even softer. Okay, I was hypnotized by my gray True Classic t-shirt when I took it out of the laundry this week, and I put it right on. And price, you can't beat the price. So the entire wardrobe, guys, not just tees. We're talking hoodies, jeans. I love the jeans. Activewear, everything you need to level up your everyday style, okay? It's not just about great clothes. Their whole DNA, they're intentional in everything they do, okay? High quality, essential clothing is what we're talking about. Great customer service too, by the way. If you ever need anything and you hit them, they're going to get right back to you and they're going to make you happy, they promise. Listen, they give back to the communities they believe in, and every detail they do is with purpose. I've been wearing True Classic since they came into my life on this show, and I love it. Really from the first piece I put on. It's snug where you want it. It's cut just the right way. I love the tees so much. I'm going to grab myself a hoodie. I'm looking at the one down there that in a black would be phenomenal. That's my actual body there in the middle with that tight-fitting tee. Guys, forget the overpriced designer nonsense. Skip the cheap throwaways, though, because quality is important. True Classic delivers premium essentials built for real life. You can get yours at a Target or Costco, or you want a little You want a little love? You want a little love from us? You want a little love? You got to get hooked up by going to trueclassic.com/Kliq, Kliq, trueclassic.com/Kliq, Kliq. Let them know we sent you, and they don't call it True Classic for nothing. I was thinking about some landmark moments from Paul's career, either on camera or off camera. Like, what are the things when I think of him as the head of that company now that were like watershed moments? And I've talked to you about this before. In January of 2002, when he was out of action for, I think it was 8 months with the quad, right? And his return to the Garden for the Raw, January 7th, which was just going to be him coming out. He wasn't involved in any angles. They hadn't like preset anything for him. He was literally just, and that was enough to make it the main event of the night, that he was going to walk out. And I always thought he was a great performer. He was great in the ring. I didn't know that it could carry, but I was in that crowd. And New York, you've worked New York. If you don't earn it, you're not getting it from the crowd. That fucking place all night long, that whole night was about Triple H walking into the ring for the first time in 8 or 9 months.
Oh, well, the thing was, too, is there was so much speculation early with that injury that he was done.
But that was it. Yeah, I remember that too.
I remember when I tore my quad and I was 40. I actually had my operation on my quad on my 42nd birthday. So I was 42. And they said, like, no way. Like at 42, like it's one thing Paul, because Paul was 10 years younger.
Yeah.
And they said, no way. But because I watched him and watched the blueprint that he did, like the only way you come back from that injury is to do it the way he did. You go down to Birmingham and you spend 5 months rehabbing twice a day. Like that's your job, is just to rehab that injury.
What's that doctor's name?
Dr. Andrews was the surgeon then, and then Kevin Wilk is the rehab specialist.
No, Andrews. That's where all the athletes go to, right?
Used to be. He's retired now.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so that was, for me, that was kind of the first moment where I was like, okay, there's more here than meets the eye. So that was my first landmark moment that I came up with. In thinking about it, I want people to think about what it would be like to assume the face of a company embroiled in scandal and turmoil. You're in that family. You've married into that family.
Right.
And then they turn to you and go, all right, it's yours.
Yeah. No.
And now you got to walk out Monday
not
night.
only that, though, how about this? It's yours. Oops. Wait a minute.
Oh, it's not yours. That's right.
Wait a minute.
He's back, Jason.
Wait a minute, Trump got a ninth year. Oh no, he doesn't. He didn't get a ninth year.
Right. That's true.
And that was, I think, that was when probably Paul got the closest to just throwing in just saying fuck it.
How would you not? There had to be chairs thrown around the office a little bit. But anyway, my point is, he succeeded in reinventing the brand.
Right.
It is today like watching something completely removed from the Vince McMahon product. Not necessarily so different in look, but they have succeeded in exorcising the demons that were attached to that company. When we started the show, this was all going down when we started. 2.5 years. How the fucking long? It was 149 episodes. This is so, 3 years,
right?
Almost. And he's done it, and didn't shy away. And this is my point, from standing there with a microphone in front of the audience, and every critic who doesn't watch wrestling, all the news outlets that just want to write something salacious because the McMahon thing was in the news. And he said, you know what? I'm going to go out. I'm going to take it. And he did it. He assumed that role rather brilliantly. So from a business standpoint, nothing but props for that. I assume you agree.
I mean, and the thing is too, is he's definitely part of the. I mean, he's married to Steph, and
yeah, but he could have stepped back with her too. She stepped away.
Yeah,
and he
she
been
stepped.
Like, yeah, you know what? Fuck this.
Well, she stepped back, and she also. I mean, she's a really, really, really good mother. So.
I'm sure I'm sure all those duties had to be tended to as well, and that was part of the consideration.
I just think that she wasn't.
But she came back on camera.
She wasn't going to sacrifice. She wasn't going to sacrifice anything to be in that turmoil again. Like that was it for her.
Yeah. Another landmark moment.
Sorry. You got to realize, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, that everything that Vince did was a black eye to her mother.
You know what? No one talks about.
No, people don't talk about that.
Right.
When I saw Linda at the Hall of Fame, it was great to see Linda, but it's like it's not like I don't look at her and go like, man, you've been through some shit in your life, lady.
Yeah.
She's tough, man. She's tough as nails. Always been classy, smart.
Well, I wouldn't wish what she's endured on anyone.
No.
A tough road. You don't hear her story. Another watershed moment for Paul. His dramatic entrances were great, and we talked about a couple of minutes ago about entrances. Look at no one gives him enough credit for his influence on that aspect of the company right now. But if you look at his entrances, the skull, the crown, all that stuff, the throne, and that's just from what he thought was important as a performer and his character, and transcending that to saying everybody should have that moment or an opportunity to have that moment before the match.
It's funny because like when Paul and I first met, and it was the nuclei of the five of us, and he and I, we drove a lot of miles together with the crew asleep, and like we talked. He was the only guy that I ever in the, maybe Lex a little bit, but like we talked like the Mr. Olympias for bodybuilding.
What the hell's there to talk about?
Oh,
you see the traps on him?
No, back in those days, you had to know. It was like the presidents. Like who was the first Mr. Olympia? Who was the second? Who was, you know?
Oh, it was part of the training process, the indoctrination.
Part of being a pure musclehead, and then the training. You know, like we would talk about, like we both started doing the Dorian Yates training, heavy duty training, cut our sets back, and was doing heavier weights. Like we both, like we trained together. That was one.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore of Mr. Olympias, Kev?
My Mount Rushmore for Mr. Olympias, Arnold.
Joe Weider?
He never won the Mr. Olympia.
Okay, it's the only.
He
had a magazine.
It was his contest. It was the Joe Weider's Mr. Olympia.
Oh, was his name on that?
Yeah, it was on. Joe.
Oh, I was just trying to be a dick.
No,
okay.
Joe Weider. So, Joe Weider was the guy that brought that. I would say Schwarzenegger, Dorian Yates, Jay Cutler, and Phil Heath. Those would be my four.
I remember this black guy that was like, he didn't even look real. He looked like something that was.
I left Ronnie Coleman out of that.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it was Ronnie Coleman. I left Ronnie Coleman out of that.
He's not on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
it's just traps.
I mean, he's not. I mean, he's like in a different category.
Right.
He's the guy that actually, sits on top of Mount Rushmore. Then there's the four guys.
Mm-hmm.
But without Arnold, it's like everybody else. Without Arnold, there's no Mr. Olympia. He was the one that the pumping iron and all that is what
made it mainstream.
Yeah.
And kind of brought it into
much like this pro wrestling thing. It's sports entertainment now, and it's definitely sports entertainment.
Kev, stop the presses, okay? There are a lot of money sending, receiving apps out there, and I'm going to help everyone cut through the mess right now. Cash App. How's that for a name? Easy to remember, right? Cash App. Have you been hit with fees? I want to talk to the people here. Let me know. Pop up some comments. You ever get hit with fees when you're sending money or receiving money? Do you ever have to wait for days for this? How about this one? If you send, this is really easy to do through your banking app. If you send it to the wrong person, good effing luck getting it back. Cash App has simplified this entire process. And you want to talk about a completely different experience? Fast, easy, and safe. First of all, instant setup. I was set up on my Cash App in, I don't know, a minute, maybe? It was set up and ready to roll. My money shows up right away. Okay, there's no waiting around for days. And it's secure and safe. Cash App has your back, okay, as a customer, all right? They are going to, if you're about to send money to some sketchy account, that a scam warning will pop up for you, okay? So they're literally looking out for your transactions, okay? Feel relaxed knowing Cash App has your back, like I do. You want some customized payments to your friends? You got custom text, you have stamps, backgrounds. You can have fun with it. It is a true app experience. But if you just want the basics, they've got you covered for that too. I love using it. It's safe and it's great. I feel like a late adopter. Everyone I know has Cash App, and then now I'm just on the horse here, and it's perfect. But for a limited time, here's the love. New Cash App users can use our code and earn some additional cash. For real, there's no catch. Just download Cash App and sign up. Use our exclusive referral code KLIQ10, KLIQ10 in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days and you're getting $10 dropped in your account. What kind of deal is that? kind of deal is, how are they in business? How's Cash App? It's being run by the current administration, I think. That's Cash App, guys. Kliq 10. There's the code right down there. And you send the $5 to a friend and you get $10 in your account from Cash App. Give it a shot, guys. Cash App. Safe, easy, fast. Cash App. Another landmark moment for Paul. Curtain call, right? He was part of it.
Yeah,
he took the bullet.
Yeah.
He took the bullet
No,
for the
he
curtain
did
call
take
is what
the,
he did.
Yeah, he took the bullet.
So you've got to give him props.
He took the bullet. Sean could have protected him, didn't. And then when Sean started to spiral through personal demons, Paul was there for him, which,
Was there any animosity on Paul's end?
I know there was. Yeah, I think there was.
Going to bat?
Yeah, I think there was on all of our ends. Because if anybody was untouchable, it was Sean. Sean was a champ. And Sean was, they were definitely, we're going with him.
But the tenets of the Kliq at the time were all for one, one for all. This is my brother. If you do something to him, you're doing it to me. That was over when you and Scott left?
No, because it was divide and conquer. I just think that, see, I wasn't involved in the screw job, so I don't know how that whole, psychology played out either.
You're talking about Montreal?
Yeah.
Well, he was already...
I swear to God, I have nothing to do with it.
I had no idea.
No idea.
Another thing for me, I don't know how many people know about this. You do, and I know some of your friends. His loyalty to Walter Kowalski after he got hired, he would take him on the road.
Yeah, he told the story how he joined us, and it took us several weeks to pry him away from Walter.
I know. But that's a sweet thing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I want to think we were somewhere in Boston when we finally grabbed him, and that's where we made the drive to Portland, where the whole story with the kid and all that, with the somas. But
yeah, but wasn't there a meeting with you guys had to meet with that Dr. Mauro Ranallo for, was it? No, Mauro.
Di Pasquale?
Di Pasquale, that's it. Mauro Ranallo was a shoot fighter. Mauro Di Pasquale, who was talking to guys. Now, this is, remember, we want natural bodies. We're getting off the gas. We're testing for everything. So he had him. He was a nutritionist, I guess, right? Who would come in and talk to guys about eating. And didn't Walter stand up, offended during a meeting, and scream at him that the best sources of protein were almonds and walnuts, and storm out of the meeting? And
I wasn't there for that. I wasn't.
Oh, you weren't there? Okay.
I
know people that were.
I was told, Walter had told me that before, and he also told me that you should only drink room temperature water. You should never drink cold water.
Okay. But I think him screaming about the walnuts and almonds might have been the time that, after that, everyone kind of looked over at Paul and went,
I think, no, because when Paul, that Di Pasquale shit was like 93. That was before I got there. Because that was the WBF and all that shit.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, that was... Well, we did have that sweet-ass Psycho Pro.
Yeah. If you'd held on to that, it's probably still as viable now as it was then.
It's like fucking space food sticks, man.
And then, the last thing that came to mind was NXT as a brand of, the viable number 2 to your own number 1.
And a lot of people, I remember the SummerSlam when Bayley and Sasha Banks for the main event for NXT at in Brooklyn, and that was that whole NXT card was, I mean, that's like big. It was it was a better show, top to bottom, than SummerSlam was. The NXT was. It's from a standpoint of just watching it and crowd reaction, crowd interaction. Like NXT became kind of the hip, the hip promotion.
Yeah, the punk rock to what was on Top 40 radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's when Paul had that health scare. Then I mean they fucking it was 2 seconds later, and Kevin Dunn was down there. They were dismantling NXT and trying to make it Nickelodeon, and they were fucking with that immediately. And Sean didn't know if he was gonna have a job, and
wow,
yeah,
just with the prospect of Paul
was
not coming
Paul,
back to work.
Yeah, Paul. If you've ever watched the interview with Smith, I mean, Paul was, it was bad.
So here's some stuff I want to know about you and Paul, from your relationship over the years. First of all, when he started riding with you guys, when was he comfortable enough to start making suggestions? You guys were always talking about the business, what was going on with you guys, and making suggestions. So, yeah, we've got to talk about Vince, and even other guys. Like I think you famously wanted Bam Bam to get a push. And when was he comfortable enough to start to speak up?
I think immediately.
Really?
Because we didn't just talk about ourselves; we talked about everybody. So, everybody had an opinion on different things, where the company was going. Like that was the whole thing was. And I think that's what allowed Paul to look beside the turmoil and the chaos that was, 4 out of 7 nights, and look at what you were doing on a nightly basis as far as, we were booking the territory because we weren't just booking ourselves.
Right. And he had the freedom, or felt he had the freedom.
I've always
contribute.
I sat in the room the night they put together the second ladder match, and that's when they were told they couldn't use the ladders as weapons, and Paul was hugely instrumental in putting the psychology of that together. That's when I sat back that night and I just was like he's really got a head for this.
Excellent. Was he lives very cleanly and always has, and you guys were a bit of a raucous crew.
I did get him to drink a couple pina coladas in Zurich one night.
I don't even really consider having a cocktail. A couple of pina coladas. Was there a bearskin rug involved?
No, just pina coladas, and I made sure that the guy was putting triple toppers on them. You could put a lot of rum in a pina colada before you taste rum.
That's true. If Patera was there, he would have said he had a cunt drink. He was. Did I tell you that story?
Yeah.
I was in the bar waiting for Greg Gagne to get off a plane, and there's a convention in town, so it was loaded with the boys, and it's green and brown bottles all around. And one dude across the bar had a pina colada or a Mai Tai, something with a fucking umbrella in it. Ken Patera walks in the door with his bags, goes to the bar first, didn't even go to the desk, goes into the bar, looks around, goes, "Who's the guy with the cunt drink? He's got a cunt drink." So was his living that way, other than your pina colada shenanigans, was it respected by all the boys? I'm not just talking about the Kliq. Was anybody a bad influence that you saw him hanging with and you were like, dude, if you're going to stay the way you roll, you probably shouldn't ride with him?
Well, at that point, if he's riding with us...
What was it? But I mean, there weren't times where you guys had to be split up for stupid travel reason.
No, even if there was A town, B town, where one of us were, we were never all, you couldn't split us all up. There might be.
Right.
I mean, for a while there was a while when Scott and I were wrestling for the IC belt, and they put us on the B towns in a cage in the main event, and the other guys were on the other,
All right, Kev, the high spot of the show needs to happen here. And, of course, I'm talking about my friends Mickey Ray Sinatra and Courtney. And, Kev, there are nuptials, I learned. Keep an eye on your mailbox. We're getting invited to Mickey Ray's big wedding. Mickey Ray and Courtney tying the knot. The goddamn entrepreneurs that they are, overseeing the Get Blitzed empire. And in that empire... you're looking at right there. You're looking at a little bit of the nano-infused Delta-9 THC sipping syrup that we've been telling you about for years here now. It's a syrup. You mix it in any beverage like the gentleman's doing there. Tea, white soda, whatever. You can control the dose. It's fast onset, 5 to 15 minutes. You do not need more than a teaspoon, I've noticed. And nano-infused means it goes right to your bloodstream, bypassing the breakdown in the liver. But, if you want a pre-mixed Get Blitzed Lit Aid Mixer, courtesy, I think they're saying powered by Kliq This, i.e. Kev's Key Lime or Sean's Blue Raz. They're available for purchase on the Get Blitzed website, currently at get-blitzed.com. That's get-blitzed.com. And try them. Try the Get Blitzed Lit Aid Mixers. Get a 4-pack of them. They are absolutely delicious, and they're a very chill vibe. Man, that booze is out, man. Go California sober. And sit and sip your Get Blitzed Lit Aid Mixers, courtesy of Kliq This, Kev's Key Lime, Sean's Blue Raz. Listen, go to the website. Can ship to almost all 50 states. And don't forget about saving 15% by entering the code KLIQ, K-L-I-Q, at checkout. Steve, you have a picture of our beautiful cans? Show them my cans, baby. Go ahead, guys. Get-blitzed.com and use that code KLIQ. Save your 15%. Have a drink on us. I'm just creating all these tags. Have a drink on us. What the fuck am I talking about? It was a good AC/DC song. Have a drink on me. Mm-hmm. But it was still you and Scott. So
yeah. So, and Scott and I were late every day
because
fuck it, we were late. We were like up in. I remember we got to it was Bakersfield, and Lanza was the road agent. And
did he fine a lot?
Nah, he was cool.
Right.
But he just said, "Boys, the honeymoon's over." And we're sitting there. It's like 105 degrees in Bakersfield, and Lanza's hair's bubbling like the La Brea tar pit with that spray in it. During the match, some lady had like a stroke in the first row. It was so hot in the building, and they put that blue steel cage up, and I used the claw throughout the whole match. Like Scott would go to climb up, and I'd hit him with the claw with that glove on. We had no heat with Lance after that.
That's epic.
Yeah. Sell the claw,
so how did he handle all the partying around him? Just kind of. Well, I mean, if I wasn't part of it, I would get real fucking bored watching everybody.
No, but you got to realize that it wasn't a party every night. It was you got done, in Cleveland and you got in the van and you drove 300 miles, the party was, it was the guys in the van. It wasn't like you were stopping roadside and going to, it was the five of us. And I would always...
There were clubs and gentlemen's establishments and...
Rarely.
Really?
Those would be maybe TV tapings. We'd be somewhere around Newark and we'd go to Lookers because we were there for 2 or 3 days with 5 guys jacked in a Holiday Inn room.
I had to go to Elizabeth last week to the Division of Motor Vehicles, and
please don't tell me she's not there anymore.
No, every crackhead on the corner, I was going to take your picture and go, Lookers? Lookers circa 92? When did he first verbalize, if he did to you, wanting to work in an office capacity?
I don't remember him ever.
I know you said he wanted to go into the meetings. He wanted to be part of production.
That was after we left.
Right, but he never said something like, "Man, when I'm done, I can see myself."
No.
Whatever.
Not when I was around there.
Okay.
Because I had no aspirations to do anything, and then Eric was being bombarded by the other tower, and he was fried, and I just looked at him. I said, "You want some help?" He said, "Yeah, I'd appreciate it." So that's the only reason I got involved with any creative aspect. Because Eric was he was fried.
But Paul never indicated that he wanted to. Okay.
I mean, I'm sure that while he was on double secret probation, I'm sure he, was trying to do what he could to get in good graces again.
Mm-hmm. What traits does he share with Vince as a promoter, as a boss, as a...
I think drive, just that drive. And I think that's something that I've never seen anybody go on less sleep for as long as Vince did. Like, Vince was like an android. And there were times when I was with Vince for days at a time doing shit. And like 8 o'clock, that fucking phone would ring. You ready to go? Like, oh, fuck. Down to the gym, get your workout in. Yeah. So, I mean, just knowing that Paul was on that plane, if you're on the WWE plane, you're on Vince's time. So, if you're on Vince's time, you know.
How do they differ? Paul as promoter / boss, Vince as same.
Well, I've never worked directly under Paul, where he was the boss. I can only tell you what the guys tell me that work underneath him. It's just, it's like night and day. It's just.
Well, delegation. Did Vince
no
delegate, or did he keep total?
Well, I mean, when I first got there, it was Vince and Pat Patterson.
Yeah.
And that was it. And shit ran, you can say what you want to, but we didn't have a room full of writers, and shit ran well. And you knew where you were going, so you could say, "Where am I going? SummerSlam," and they'd open up the old legal pad and flip through it in pencil, and there it'd be.
Yeah. And had he jumped to WCW with you that night, had he not stayed with Sean,
they weren't letting him go anywhere.
But had it happened, well, he's a 1099 employee, for God's sake.
He still got a 3-year contract.
I still don't know how they got away with that shit, Kev. I really don't. But would it have been the wrong move, given everything?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it played out exactly like it was supposed to. You know, the guys that stayed loyal to Vince were highly rewarded.
Right. If you were maybe, I don't know, 10 years younger, willing to keep working, not in the ring, but, you know, didn't mind going on the road a little. Do I have to go back 20 years for that, maybe?
Fuck yeah.
What executive position could Paul have dangled in front of your face if he was in control there, or you were just that age now, that you would have been tempted enough to go to work for Connecticut? Would it have been like?
I would have been in some way like Sean. I would have been around the NXT.
So training, development.
Yeah, I would have done that.
Talent.
Because anytime I've come back and worked in any capacity, it's been in that capacity.
But you have a lot of production experience too, from the other business. You don't think you would have been able to lend?
I mean, well, it used to be done. It was Dunn's truck, so you know.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the way shit was done. I'm not that familiar with the production people now. I think there's nothing I could add. When I watch Netflix, I'm just amazed at the production.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you wonder about Paul that you've never talked to him about?
I don't think there's many things we haven't talked about.
Other than the meat gazing that you'd like.
I think I was really surprised. I really haven't sat down and asked him like exit strategy wise. Like when's it going to be enough? Like when will you have enough? When will?
Right.
You know, there's not an arena they don't fill. There's not a country they don't go to. It's.
Yeah. I want to know how grueling it must be to be away from his kids so much. I mean, he's very busy, obviously, so his mind is always occupied, but
I think he does a better job than. I think the schedule again, even though he's 24/7, I think that like Steph always brings the girls to the major events.
But listen, you're not going to dance recitals. You're missing, the
You'd be surprised if
violin concert or whatever.
Having a private plane at your beck
I knew you were going to say that.
There's you miss a lot less than the guy in the fucking Chevy Lumina.
Well, he's going to retire someday.
Yeah.
And
he's 50. He's 55. I'm 65. Yeah. So for me, man, it's just like I'm cool. I'm cool.
But someday the two you're going to be retired, and you're gonna be sitting next to the pool, maybe with a pina colada someday.
Maybe
what are you going to be talking about? The old days. You're going to be talking about sports. You can be.
John Paul's not a big sports guy.
No, okay. You'd be talking about Barron Trump and how the hell he got elected, or what are you guys going to be talking about? When you have the time to talk to him. Now you see him at 5 minutes at Mania, but what are you going to talk to him about when you can really dig in?
I think that's the beauty of that is have that conversation when we get there.
Right. Something to look forward to.
Yeah. We always say every time we all get together, we did it again at Hall of Fame. We need to get together.
Yeah.
Besides, then all of a sudden Harry Chapin fucking walks through playing Cats in the Cradle. You're like, yeah, whatever.
Time keeps going.
Yep.
And all this Triple H talk reminds me of, Kev, you know what product this reminds me of? Car Gurus. Because we're always talking about you guys driving, right? You're in the road. You invited him into the car. How many times have we mentioned that this week about Triple H? Invite him into the car. But the exciting thing about Car Gurus, Kevin, that I had no idea when I saw they were coming on board, you use them. You bought your wife's Mercedes, I think, this way. CarGurus.com, guys. Here we are. It's 2025. Why are we buying cars the way you did in 1965? All right, technology should make this process easier and should do something to indemnify you in this process a little. Finding the perfect car, think about it like dating, right? You can go online, you can swipe through a bunch of people until you find the right one, read some specs on the person, right? Some look better than they really are, you know. With Car Gurus, take the guesswork out of car buying, okay? Real price analysis, a vehicle history, price drop alerts on the cars that you've indicated you're interested in, and you're going to get the best deals. No bad dates, just good cars, okay? It should be exciting. It shouldn't be exhausting. It should be fun. And Car Gurus delivers the process like that. Like Kevin described last week, you put in how many miles around you, and it's going to search the dealerships, okay? Don't second guess yourself. Don't leave this process to chance, okay? Car Gurus is going to connect you with trusted dealerships when you're ready, ensuring a transparent and hassle-free buying process. Over 4 million listings. All right, is that enough cars for you to go through? Car Gurus has more car listings than any other major online automotive marketplace in the U.S. So you can find the best deal, okay? They give you the control to shop, all right? How you want to shop, the tools, what information do you want to show up on your screen, okay? It's data-driven deal ratings that you need. It's no wonder that SimilarWeb estimated traffic data for Car Gurus as the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com, CARGURUS.com. Make sure your big deal is the best deal and go to cargurus.com. Kev loves it. I'm going to love it when my car's up and I'm ready. He's loving it now. He's loved it twice. Kev, you've loved it twice, you said, right? Yes, twice. cargurus.com. All right. Thank you, Car Gurus. Love it. Love that, Kev. Actually, Kev, important call. Kev must be on the line with Paul. Paul must know we're doing this entire show about him live, Steve. And I think Kev was pulled into a conference call, in my mind anyway, and he's advising Paul on the direction of the company. I think that his suggestions and his observations about the lead up to WrestleMania itself have hit home. And I think he's being consulted with right now. I have no evidence to support this, by the way, but I think that's the call he's on. I think he's with Paul.
I think he's going to take over NXT and then bump Shawn Michaels down to Evolve. I think that's happening right now.
And then what happens to Gabe Sapolsky, for Christ's sake? Maybe he could.
I don't think Gabe Sapolsky runs Evolve. I think we're still okay. I'm gonna hear it.
When I reached out to him, he didn't write me. All of a sudden, Gabe can't write me back. Whew. Right? I hired him. I hired him for kayfabe commentaries. Gave him a series of kayfabe commentaries, for spotlighting his Gabe's next evolution. It was called, to spotlight what he was going to be doing. Now I don't get a text. I don't get a text back now. Just want to talk to you about ICP a little bit for the book, bro. That's okay.
Well, I think you're going to get a text back now. We mentioned him. You mentioned him on air.
Let me see if Kev, if you're on with Trips, what's the deal with his little friend, his little consultant friend?
I don't think Triple H is going to ask him about that.
Can't text me back. All right. Steve, while you're here, why don't you stay with me for a minute? I think that what we should do, I don't think that we should lose the momentum or the excitement of Florida man or Jersey guy. So why don't we do this? Everybody that's in the live, what am I talking about, the live? I'm talking about joining us at KliqThisTV.com. Every week you get to be in the pre-show. You get to see the magic behind the scenes. And you get to sit here for the live taping. And you get a recording of this on your feed tomorrow without spots. So why don't we have one of those people play the game?
Let's do that.
All
Who's
right.
going to do it? Who's going to do it?
Who will be playing against yourself, Florida man, Jersey guy.
The tension. Ivan Garcia.
Ivan. All right, Ivan.
Always commenting Ivan Garcia. Always with us.
Randomly selected. So Ivan, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm going to read Ivan 2 headlines here, okay? One, an actual event involving a Florida man. One, an actual event involving Jersey guy. And Kevin kind of has that magical ability to discern and decipher which is which, and we're going to see if Ivan can do the same. All right, here are the 2 headlines. Pay attention, in no particular order. Here we damn go. Man with cardboard license plate arrested after 2 pipe bombs and drugs discovered in vehicle. Okay. That's what they teach you at terrorist camp. Like, if you're going to be hauling that stuff, make yourself a big old fake cardboard license plate. All right, and second headline, mayor charged with DUI after driving her 2-year-old son home from daycare on St. Patrick's Day. Man with cardboard license tag arrested after 2 pipe bombs and drugs discovered in vehicle, and then mayor charged with DUI after driving her 2-year-old son home from daycare.
So you've got a bad terrorist and a corrupt politician. That could be both states.
It could be both states. What do you think, Ivan?
All right. So Ivan says the mayor is Florida and that the pipe bomb is New Jersey.
See, we clearly have to get Kevin back here because it is the opposite, Ivan. Let's go check this out here. The Florida man with cardboard license tag. This is in Defuniak Springs, Florida. Someone can pronounce that.
That sounds made up. I'll be real.
Yeah, it doesn't sound real. Facing charges after deputies say he had 2 pipe bombs and meth in his vehicle. And according to the Walton County Sheriff's Office, deputies pulled over the car at Smith Road. Oh, okay. This is even better. The license plate read, can you see that? Private. So not only did he make a cardboard license plate, he made it read private. All right, so his pipe bombs and meth and whatnot were discovered. And then we go to Jersey for this one. New Jersey mayor. This is Gina LaPlaca. But is she the mayor of her kindergarten class? Well, who is this? Is a mayor?
It's in the Asbury Park Press
in Lumberton Township.
Okay.
She's been charged with driving under the influence and endangering her child after allegedly having a near fatal crash while driving drunk. It looks like, look at the nameplate. It looks like this looks like something you sit down and have your picture taken at a carnival, like you're the mayor of that city.
This is ChatGPT.
I don't know.
Who would have?
This was in People magazine.
I guess if you're at like a city council, because you could see this is a city council bench. This isn't her desk.
Gina LaPlaca's placard is 11 soft, is what that is.
It's a massive
perfect
placard
for the show.
I think that's her. I think when she like heads the city council, that's her like podium, her seated
talk about
podium.
Wood. All right. So Ivan, better luck next time. We're sorry. You have to get your degenerates straightened out. You have to know.
Also, Ivan, if you want to claim, a technicality, that was a New Jersey woman.
Yeah, I mean, is he going to bust chops? I don't know.
If you want to claim a draw or a scratch, that would be how you do it. If you want to take the L, you can take the L. That's up to you.
Technically, I guess. And you and all that. Oh, I forgot to take my GERD pill earlier, so I'm on fire right now.
What is your GERD pill?
Well, I won't say it. The brand starts with an N. It's a prescription one.
Oh, okay.
You can do it over the counter. It's purple. But I have the prescription dose. I'm reading now, and I've been on it for about 20 years. I'm reading now that it has
minimal,
possibly bad effects on the liver.
Oh, even
So I mean, my days are numbered. Clearly, I'm going to be closing more windows of my life as I try to get my digestion. So let me have some more of the colostrum to help with my digestion.
Just colostrum will outdo the 20 years of the stuff that might have affected your
Hopefully.
liver.
We'll see. No guarantees. That's not a medical claim. But Steve, let's do this. We promised the people, because I suspected when we advertised hashtag Ask Sean, I suspected Kevin might be getting a call. Let me look over. Still on?
He's still on.
Right. With China? There's trade talk going on. I don't want to interrupt it, but
do you want to go to the Rumble?
The Royal Rumble next
Royal
year?
Rumble,
If you give me tickets.
Well, no, they're in they're not in Abu Dhabi. That's the new Disney World park, but they're in somewhere in the UAE, the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. Maybe that's what he's negotiating.
I think he's going to be number 30.
Steve, before we do the Ask Sean segment, I don't know what I'm in for here. Maybe I should relax a little bit. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that with my VIIA box. Me and Kev, let me look at my secret cameras. Kev's still on the conference call. I think they may be planning a run for office. Paul and Kevin. I don't know. I don't know that he's on with. I'm just assuming. We've been talking about Paul all day, so Paul's on my mind. So maybe it's Levesque Nash 2028 or Nash Levesque 2028. Just saying. But VIIA has arrived in my mailbox, and I'm so happy. It keeps me optimistic. It keeps me able to work. And so if I want relaxation, maybe I go to my flow state. Flow state. What am I talking about? People are like, what is VIIA? You don't know what VIIA is? You haven't been listening to the show? VIIA is one of Kevin and my favorite products. We are customers, happy to read the ads every week. VIIA is changing the game, by the way, in natural wellness by combining high-quality hemp-derived ingredients with powerful cannabinoids to create real effect-driven results. It's not just fancy packaging and empty promises and slick social ads. Do you want better sleep? Dreams, right here. What's packed in Dreams? I enjoy. It's a midnight berry flavor, by the way. And this is just 5 milligrams of THC, 90 milligrams of CBD, 15 milligrams of CBN, and it's night, half hour after I have these. Great. But I'm debilitated. I can't get up. I go down. I have a little something, a little water or something. I get a little snack. I'm fine. I just relax, and it gets me to sleep. That was, by the way, the Dreams. Kev's a fan of High Love. You know what we're talking about there, maybe. What else is in here? There's sample sizes. There's flour. Guys, any form, any concoction you need for natural wellness, emotional wellness, mental wellness. It's 2025, guys. This is the alternative. This is the way to go. Okay, let them customize your experience. Are you looking for just general daily wellness? Do you want like a laser focus? Do you want a deep relaxation? I'm talking about the kind of chill that makes you one with your couch. Let me hold up my Dreams again. It's VIIA. And I'm so happy to be able to deliver you guys 15% off. If you're 21 and over, treat yourself to that 15% off and get yourself a free gift with your first order, okay? The exclusive code is Kliq, K-L-I-Q. What's the site? VIIAHemp.com. 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 And get yourself free shipping if you're ordering over $100 worth of relaxation help. The focus one I like too. Which is what I had here? Elevate. That's the concoction for focus. VIIAHemp.com. Code Kliq. 15% off if you're over 21 and free shipping on orders over $100. Thank you, VIIA, by the way, for just being you. Thank you for being fabulous. Steve, let's do a little bit. Do you want to set me up here?
I'll set
I have
you
some
up,
that were sent in that I can. That
first
you can
question
read me,
I have for
go
you.
ahead. What do you got? Who do you have?
It's actually in the DMs on Patreon. It's from Tal Rosen. Have you ever thought about squishing into the same studio for once? And if you could drag anyone onto this show as a guest, dead or alive, no pressure, who is your dream pick? So that's technically 2 questions. First one, do you ever want to drag Kevin Nash into a studio?
There were times when I was down. Okay, so when I spend time in Florida, the house is a town away from Kevin. So we'll get together sometime. I generally don't want to bother him. And I don't want to be bothered either. But I brought up in the past going into his studio. But I talked to you about this, Steve, how we would have to do the feed where we'd both be in the studio, like looking at each other. And, I don't know what would that do with the magic. So what did we do? Nothing. One town away, built my studio in the other house, and Kev was in his studio, and we just still did it remotely. Meanwhile, I could go on my roof and throw a rock and hit his studio probably. But so we did talk about it, Tal. Was that Tal, the question?
Yes, Tal was.
Oh, Tal, that we did talk about it. We never did it. It may happen someday still.
I think it's more likely if a promoter can come up with the money that you and Kev could wind up on a stage somewhere. That feels more likely because then we could sell tickets.
Well, the thing is, we did that great Starcade one, which I thought went not Starcade.
Starcast.
What the fuck was that called? Starcast in Nashville when we first got this show, and it was fun. It was great. I think it was the best one. It was the best one. It was the best one of any of the live shows, clearly. But when you are a promoter and you want to bring Kev out, you want a lot of things signed, So for a promoter to get Kevin Nash money worth, I destroyed that grammar right there, but you know what I'm talking about. You're not just going to stick him on a stage and charge some admission. You're going to pack a freaking line out the door. But maybe they can combine it. I'm waiting for I've talked to promoters before, and most times, before I even really go to Kev, the deal. It's held together with Scotch tape, But any serious promoter that wants to bring us out to a club to do a live show, and they could do meet and greet afterwards, he'll sign your stuff for you too.
Yeah.
I mean, put it together. We'll always consider it. We've always talked about doing it. It's fun. It would be fun. I like doing live shows.
If any of those people are listening, I believe it's kliqthispodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, reach out.
Reach out.
Podcast@gmail. Or me. We're on socials. Hit us anywhere.
We are open for business. If you're trying to book the Kliq This podcast, we'll come to your town. But there's a price tag.
A guest to interview alive or dead. Me and Kevin to interview a specific guest.
So it says on to the show. So yeah, this show.
Yeah.
So who do you think?
See, I mean, I have a list of people I would want to talk to. Kev probably has a list of people he would want to talk to, and we'd have to see where they intersect. I don't want to give a boring answer, but I would have to. I mean, this past year, I think Vince McMahon would have been a great guest on this show. I think that Kev could talk history, and I could have asked some pointed questions about goings on. I'm actually very interested. People would always ask me that, like in the kayfabe commentaries days, and I said I would talk to Vince exclusively about when he got the company from his father, taking it from a regional to a national in like a year, and what all those discussions with TV stations must have been like. It would probably put the average viewer to sleep, but I'm fascinated on how he turned it in just a year.
And mind you, he was living in a trailer park. He was living in a trailer park with children while taking the company from his father that he didn't really spend that much time with, and then what some people consider disgracing the entire industry on his way to being the only domestic product, really. Like, I think if you frame that correctly, that is an incredible story of like, because now it's reframed as like, oh, he's a Nepo baby. And I'm like, not to defend Vince McMahon on anything, but he wasn't a Nepo baby. Like,
not at all. No,
he was a poor kid who had like,
his relationship with his dad was a little challenged too. It wasn't, I got a better answer though. That was a very kind of logical
Jesus
answer.
Christ. No,
If we could, he's already here. If we could do this show, not from the studio, but from a bar, from a pub, and T could join us as a third host.
Of course.
I would put Charles Bukowski.
That would be excellent.
As the guest. Me, T, and Kev at the same table with Bukowski with 4 microphones. How's that for a fucking podcast?
That's a good answer. Ivan Garcia says Kurt Cobain, also John Lennon, Elvis.
Yeah, either one.
Dennis Rodman, and then obviously Scott Hall.
Scott, yeah, there's been a lot of appearances with Kevin Scott. I don't think Kev's ever been on a show with Hank Bukowski, so
A lot of great
be
options
my answer
on that question.
All right, send me something else. That was a softball. I didn't need my VIIA hemp to relax before that one.
Tyler Blair wants to know, who's a better director, Abel Ferrera or Quentin Tarantino?
God, that's a really good question. Okay, so here's my thinking on this right now. When Tarantino was hitting, I was in film school, okay, early 90s. Reservoir Dogs, I think, was the first I saw. Pulp Fiction was also released while I was in school. And I just thought it was style over substance. You know, the sitcom talking bad guys, there wasn't enough heart in it for me. Okay, I thought it was style over substance. I just thought there wasn't enough meat on the bone for me. Abel Ferrara, however, I did always like because of his fearlessness in going for grit. He was not afraid of what the censors would say, okay? And I do feel sometimes that Abel Ferrara purposely went a little too far over the line for attention. But better director, that's a tough one. Like better in the arts. I shy from those types of terms. Today, having matured, I kind of see the brilliance in what Tarantino did. I still say it was style over substance. But style is sometimes very hard to get to come across on camera. And I think that's what I wasn't paying enough attention to, that it was consistent style. You know, a Big Mac is a Big Mac. And if we're talking about a steakhouse in the same discussion with the Big Mac, you could draw the obvious comparisons. But a lot of work goes into making a Big Mac taste exactly like a Big Mac every time. So style does have something to be appreciated. So I think if you talked to me when I was 20, 22, 23, I probably would have said Abel Ferrara. Someone I know that worked with him once said, the first thing you want to do when you shake Abel Ferrara's hand is wash it. But I would probably revise that and say Tarantino today. But I hate the term better anyway, Tyler, so it's a hard question to answer.
That's a really good question. And I also think...
And two good choices, because I see why he chose those.
Because I also think... graduating high school in 2004 means Tarantino was just that sweet spot for me where he was it. He was everything. Everybody had the Pulp Fiction poster in their dorm. And for me, style was kind of the point. Kind of like how
that's the thing. Yeah. And I think I went there looking for more. You know, I left my class, about the French New Wave.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, you're going to talk to me about Reservoir Dogs. We got the ice. Yeah, come on. What are we doing? Come on. But I should have looked at it with different glasses, though. You can't
and
judge
he's
the same thing.
Tarantino is somebody who could come to you having understood the French Wave but he makes it more. He makes a lot of film, like very foreign or very out there filmmaking, a bit more palatable for a mainstream audience through his style. That I think there's something. I think there's something to his art that leads with style that he actually kind of the spoonful of sugar and the medicine. That he hits audiences with some Kurosawa who would have never watched Kurosawa.
That's okay. All right, I get that. It's a little bit of film class in a film. You know, Kev's not on the phone with Paul. Wesley locked him in a crate so that there could be film talk for the rest of the show. He's sitting on the crate to keep Kevin in there. All right, what else do we got here?
Jen Vargo wants to know how you're staying jacked. Jacked now, Bubba, specifically.
You're clearly not talking about the guns when you ask me that. So you mean stay awake? I don't know. It's I am kind of energized right now. I guess you know why? Because I have to sing lead here a little bit. It's you know, Garfunkel has taken the mic. Someone locked Paul Simon in the trunk, and so there's a lot of solo going here. No, it's engaging conversation, Jen. I'll always perk up when I'm posed with some intelligent banter with my friends here.
And you'll always have that Shane Douglas email if you ever want to hit the gym again.
That's true. That's true.
You'll always have it.
I went to see my endocrinologist yesterday, and every month she goes, "Are you working out?" And I said, "No, I'm not working out." She's like, "You're going to have to pair this with something else. Great, you lost the 50 pounds. You have the treadmill. Walk on the treadmill. Just do 20 minutes." She begs me.
I think what worked for me was when it comes to treadmill is I bought a really cheap netbook, like a Chromebook, and then I come up with certain TV shows that I only watch on the treadmill.
So you look forward to it.
That it's just kind of, that both of them, it's a show I would have watched normally.
You're trying to trick yourself. And,
yes.
And I'm just going to go, you know what? I'm going to lay the fuck down and watch the show with my Chromebook. In bed.
No carrot, no stick, just lay in bed.
Nothing. That's it. Well, when I'm holding the carrot and the stick and I'm the donkey, it's a shit show. I have very addictive personality. I have very little self-control.
Ivan Garcia, no question. Thanks on the solid advice you gave me on my kid. There's no book on how to raise a kid as a single man, but everything you said was spot on several months ago. #grateful.
What did I say? I'm 52. I don't remember these things.
I believe Ivan was having a custody issue, and then he was being blamed for things that weren't his fault. Ivan, let me know if I'm miscategorizing it.
And he asked me, "You sure that wasn't a Florida man?"
No, he asked us. Well, he asked you and Kev.
And Kev, yeah.
Maybe I believe.
I'm sure. Maybe Kev took the lead on that. I don't know.
I think it's both.
Listen, whatever I said, that's fine. You just remember, Ivan, as far as the No Handbook, you got to make it up as you go along. It's kind of like jazz, right? There are some rules. You know, you got to keep time. You got to keep time, and if your heart's in the right place and you're a good dude, you're gonna do that. But how you scat is your thing, man. That's what you feel, and that makes you a different dad than I am, and that's why your kids are gonna get the greatness of you, and my kids get the greatness of me.
There you go. Kids will be kids. Enjoy the ride. That was your advice. It's good advice.
Look at that refrigerator magnet wisdom I whipped out. You're welcome. I guess I should just say.
Let's find Jen Vargo, Jenny from the block, as Kev would say. Ask Sean, favorite female rock vocalist. One of mine is Stevie Nicks.
I do love Stevie Nicks. You said rock, right? Rock.
She says rock vocalists.
God, Pat Benatar has a fucking range that's ridiculous. I mean, she can shatter glass, but she could put a little bit of sandpaper in her voice too. She was a great rock vocalist. Yeah, specifically rock, I guess I'd have to say her. Stevie Nicks was great.
Does Joan Jett make your list?
Joan Jett, yeah. In a very punk way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more narrow. What you could give her to work with. than someone like Pat. But yeah, for that post-punk, dirty chick style, for sure. In keeping with, you mentioned Stevie Nicks, Jen, in keeping with, oh no, I'm going to throw somebody else in there. Patti Smythe. She had a great duet with Don Henley. Sometimes Love Ain't Enough, it's called. She did some poppy shit with Scandal, Goodbye to You, and whatever. But she has a very beautiful voice, as spotlit in that duet with Don Henley. I was going to say Christine McVie. When Christine McVie in Fleetwood Mac would take solo, it was a much smoother, but it was kind of like I call it a smooth whiskey voice. She was a smooth whiskey voice. Good questions. My God, keep the art questions coming. Thank God no one asked me my favorite wrestler. Oh, when I have to be a guest on a podcast, I try to do as many as I can, because they were me, starting kayfabe commentaries, So I try to do them, and but I do know the same 10 questions are coming. And that's part of the magic when you do a lot of interviews, is you have to answer the same questions 100 times, but you've got to make it a little interesting, a little different, and sound a little fresh each time as you answer it. So it's wonderful that I'm being asked about Stevie Nicks, and I got to get Bukowski in here. That was a treat.
Definitely a treat. I have to find more that kind of fit that. Don Dugan, we might wind up cutting this question because it might be a non-answer.
Oh.
Ask Sean, ballpark, what would it cost to book you and Kev for a live event?
Depends on a lot of factors. What are we doing? Is it just the show? Is there a signing attached to it with Kevin? Is he going to have to sign $10,000?
How far from Daytona is it?
How far? Some of the expense too for the promoters is, first class flight, and getting Kevin to he needs a hotel with the 24-hour room service usually. I don't know. I mean, maybe depends who it is too. I'm sure Kev works with promoters that it's. But I think it's a sliding scale. But there's a lot to consider.
In the ballpark, let's say it's on the East Coast of America. In a weekend that he's not otherwise booked.
$2 million.
I was about to say under 100 for sure. Well under 100 for sure, right?
Oh yeah, no. Listen,
probably under 50.
We're not. You're not booking us in the Garden, right? So we know the types of venues it's going to be. You're going to have to make your money, but again, I don't know. Is he signing figures? Is there a meet and greet? Is there other stuff involved? I don't know.
Is it just 2 hours of his time? Like, are you
right? Are we just getting on stage doing this for 2 hours and that's it?
Is it the Italian restaurant in Daytona that he likes anyway?
Yeah, actually, that'd be a good place. Probably get a meal. I wanted to try it.
I've seen pictures. It looks really, really good. Edgar Watson actually, and Ask Steve, favorite wrestling match and why. I have two that are always neck and neck for me. One is kind of obvious, and I think a little, I don't want to say poserish, but like the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart Iron Man match. Like, if you just really need to just explain to somebody all the things that wrestling is, I think that match just explains it all. The storytelling, it's almost like a soccer match in that way. It's the back and forth and like the real life story behind the two of them at that point before it and then at that point after. Like, I think that's a bit of a nexus point in pro wrestling, and then also Born to Be Wired in ECW. But like, just to really show how polarizing a wrestling fan I am, those are my two favorite wrestling matches. Edgar Watson also wants to know, ask Sean, what about a book on wrestling fans by fans written by you? Do you want to write another book, Sean?
Yeah, always, but I don't know who would read that. Maybe wrestling fans would read it. I don't know. I'd have to think of the angle, Edgar. I never say no to an idea off the bat because I think every idea in the hands of the right artist could be something interesting. A book on wrestling fans by you. You know, I could probably have fun with that. I'd have to scour the country to find the most interesting fans to profile. But yeah, I mean, I think that might be interesting. You know, from the banker to the butcher to the baker, the candlestick maker.
But like if you
all different walks of life, and
so if you had a book that was, let's say, the 500 types of wrestling fan, maybe not, but maybe you're not actually, or the 100 types of wrestling fan.
Right, and I'd have to find the bucket, right? I'd have to define each, you know, basement dweller, you know, likes to write nasty things to Meltzer 12 hours a day, yeah.
And like also green shirt guy, he's become a thing now. He sits front row at all the current WWE shows. And as we saw recently, like front row at this upcoming SummerSlam for 2 nights, I want to say is like $30,000 or $40,000. And whoever green shirt guy is, he's paying that to be at all the shows.
So we couldn't spotlight him, but the type
of,
and that type is fan that wants to be on the card but can't wrestle. So, you know,
but then you would have to look into if they even see themselves that way.
It doesn't matter if they do. Like my dog doesn't know she's a dog. I do, but she doesn't, and he doesn't either. He thinks he's part of the show, I think.
Or like straw hat guys.
Remember the ECW guy? I was just going to say. So they were made part of the show by ECW, but they wanted to be part of the show. You know, they could have done things a little differently. Sign guy, etc.
Ivan Garcia, have you followed the Hulk Hogan story where he calls Shelton Benjamin Shelton?
No.
He was doing He was doing some press for Real American Freestyle Wrestling. And in the process of doing that press, he mentioned that he worked with Kurt Angle and saw the fire. He worked with Kurt Angle before he was fully trained and saw the fire in his eyes because he was trying to bring it back to how he's worked with real athletes. And people have thoroughly debunked this. Kurt Angle, speaking of ECW, worked in ECW for a minute until the crucifixion angle and then wound up in the WWE at a time when Hogan was either at WCW or suing WCW after the finger poke of doom. He then goes on to say that I worked with Brock Lesnar
chapter that's in here, by the way, the Kurt Angle visiting ECW arena with his friend. Who the fuck brought him? I have to look at the chapter. Was it Taz? I can't remember.
Taz was his friend. I don't know if Taz brought him.
And thinking about wanting to wrestle somewhere, and he was thinking about there, and that's the fucking night when Raven and Sandman did the crucifixion, and Kurt Angle went berserk as a Christian, was highly offended, and that was the end of
Kurt Angle. But then, so that gets debunked. He says he worked with Brock Lesnar. Hulk Hogan said he worked with Brock Lesnar immediately after the UFC. That was immediately debunked. That timeline doesn't mesh at all. And then he said, I've worked with a bunch of real athletes. I worked with Benjamin Shelton. So the whole gaffe is just that Hulk Hogan's a gaffe machine now, and that was one of his gaffes.
You know, I think that it was probably 7 at night, and he had probably been up since 5:30 in the morning. I'm ready to say Benjamin Shelton right now, as well. Shoot me. But if you're gonna do that, you're gonna want to keep your weapon safe but accessible, and that's why I have my STOPBOX here today. Why are we obsessed with STOPBOX on here? I personally love the mechanics of the device. We can talk about the security of the box. We could talk about the construction of the box, but the mechanical system that allows for safe, secure access without the risk of fumbling for keys when every second might count. That's the selling point here, I think. Okay? You want it safe, secure, locked away, but not entirely inaccessible to you when you need it. Okay? You don't want to be vulnerable. All right? no keys, no keypad. Well, my God, what if it's dark? So that's why this system, I want to try to get it on camera, this button system here with a finger combination. When I say combination, I don't mean pushing the buttons. I'm talking, am I too far from my mic? I'm talking about a configuration of your fingers, and in seconds, the box is open, okay? You could do it in the dark, okay? You just have to feel the buttons on the top, okay? Security, readiness, STOPBOX's mechanical keyless system allows for fast, secure access without the risk of fumbling for keys. Proudly made in the USA, in their own facility. Okay, not only does this ensure the high-quality craftsmanship that I'm talking about right here, it's spacious to put your piece in. Traveling with peace of mind is easy because STOPBOX Pro is TSA compliant. You can securely and conveniently transport your firearm through checked baggage. They also offer a range of other innovative products, including vehicle-safe chamber lock and other essential gear designed to keep you prepared and protected wherever you are. For a limited time, listeners are getting a crazy deal. You're going to get 10% off your entire purchase, okay? When you use the code KLIQ, K-L-I-Q. And right now, we want you to go to the website, use the code, click, get your 15% off, 10% off, sorry, 10%. You have an edit point, Steve. Get your 10% off. And show us on socials. So show us you securing your weapon. Okay? I'm going to open this right here for you. It's that easy. Did you see that? It was a second. Okay? But it's closed, locked, and secure. Okay? That's the magic. Safety and accessibility. Okay, guys? Go grab it, okay? Go to stopboxusa.com and use the code KLIQ, K-L-I-Q.
So you cut off Kevin, or we cut off Kevin Gilbert. So I'll
I'm
get
sorry,
back to
Kevin.
him. It's fine.
Didn't mean to do that. Let's see.
STOPBOX had to say
Kevin.
stop. Kevin Gilbert wants to know, how is the ICP book coming along?
It's great. Unaccepted Volume 1, The Wrestling. The coffee table book is, I'm actually sending it to the editor, sending the text to the editor Monday. And then I'll be focused entirely for the month of May on graphics and compiling the photos and rare photos and digging through their archives and doing the layout for it. I've also decided, because I'm insane, I told them that I was going to do it. I'm a fan. When you're a fan of something, like, I was a big Kiss fan when I was a kid, right? So I liked books that compiled the minutia of the band, right? So there were like accounts of whatever, but then there was a great book, I think it was called Kiss Alive Forever. And the guys that wrote it put a full listing of every show they ever played. Set lists were available. And so I was always going to do an appendix of every match on record that Shaggy and Jay wrestled, even back, when they were indie wrestlers, wrestling as Hector Hatchett and Sewer Dweller, and even before that, when Jay used to get in his brother's army fatigues and he was Corporal Darrell Daniels. Then I was like, wouldn't it be cool if, in addition to every match they wrestled, I did a full compiling with the full card listing of everything they ever promoted. And that just, it gave me like an extra month's work, but I did it. And so if you're a fan, the appendix of this book with all those dates and matches and stuff is going to be a lot of fun. But then I wrote, the front half is a proper book about their time in wrestling. So, long answer to a short question. It's coming well. I turn it in June 1st, and it'll be on all the tables at the Gathering in August. So that'll kind of be the kickoff release date. August.
Hell yeah. Instagram, a wrestling historian. What was your favorite acting role Thank you in advance. Hashtag Ask Sean.
Acting awake every Thursday night from 7 to 10. The level at which I've acted professionally in major motion pictures and TV shows. I was never the star of a film. Some indie features that I was that I had very large roles in. But of the big stuff, never did enough to be able to say that I had a favorite role. There were some productions I enjoyed working on. I did voice work, for Sex and the City for 4.5 years, and that was always fun. On camera, it was, a few days here, a few days there. So I'd have to go to my theater stuff, maybe. One of the straight shows that I did, I did 6 Degrees of Separation. Little Murders was a lot of fun. Little Murders was a crazy show. Jules Pfeiffer was the playwright for that. This never got staged, but we were doing staged readings with the expectation that we would get a space, and it just never happened. American Buffalo, the David Mamet play, that was good. I wonder now, Steve, like I talk to my wife about this too sometimes. At my age now, could I remember lines? I was off book right away. You can hand me a script, and usually, I don't know, 4 or 5 rehearsals, I could put the script down.
It's a muscle. It's a muscle. You just have to train it, and it might just take you more rehearsal or more time. But no, I think you could absolutely be off book if needed.
I think I'd be doing a lot of improvising these days. If you handed, and I had for a theater piece.
Yeah.
For film, you're shooting in 2-minute.
Well, yeah, and for film, you don't have to know the whole. You don't have to be off book.
No.
To follow up on the question, what would a dream role for you be at the time where you were most active? Like, was there a show? Was there a role that was on TV or film?
I was up for things that I didn't get, that I thought I would have done well with. That 70s show, right?
Okay,
At
yeah.
the time, I read for, I don't know the character name. Ashton Kutcher played the character that I read for. But when I went to audition, my fucking manager, they never told, the agent or my manager, both of them, never told me it was a sitcom. Because that's got to be acted very differently. Yeah. I thought it was a film. That film, Dazed and Confused, was out at the time. So I thought it was that vibe. I thought it was a film about the stoner era. So I played my read like very low key, very chill, and now I know why I didn't get a fucking call back. It was a sitcom. Well, I see this thing. It was called Teenage Wasteland at the time. Then they made it.
And then you read for Michael Kelso? Was the Ashton Kutcher character from that 70s show?
I guess that's
so.
The
Then
one,
that's like very likely, and my goodness, he became the Kramer of that show.
Yeah,
for you to.
So I would have played it differently, and I would have done it well, but I didn't.
And then you could have played Steve Jobs.
I got called back for twice, and I almost wanted to tell them, you can't give this to me because I don't look right. The son in A Bronx Tale. De Niro's son, who's like the main kid, who's kind of got this.
So like the main kid in The Bronx Tale.
Yeah, I read in New York, and then I was talking to you about like a Mike Lemmon. I used to audition out of there. Then I got called down to Philly for it, and I'm like, guys, I don't know. Like I went and read it, but like I knew I wasn't going to get it.
Were you outside the age thing? Was that part of it?
No. I put De Niro next to me. It's like. I should have done the impression a little bit.
I think it worked out. I think that actor was authentic, like purely authentic in a way that I think you would have been acting a bit more.
I would have had to act a little, but maybe there would have been some more depth. Do I say? I don't know.
No, I think there was plenty of depth to the.
I got called a couple of times for in The Sopranos, Jackie Jr. was the character name. Jackie
Aprile. Yeah.
Jackie Aprile's son comes back.
Yes.
And I think he dated Meadow.
He dated Meadow, and then he spoilers to a 20-year-old show. He robbed.
He gets killed. Right?
Well, he robbed the poker game and then wound up.
Right.
It goes horribly wrong, and then he was on the run, and then Tony killed him, and it was a big thing that Tony himself killed Jackie Aprile Jr. You were up for Jackie Aprile Jr.
Yeah, two callbacks. I think
That was.
So, a bunch of shit. That was the era that I was really busy, Steve. I was always a bridesmaid, never a bride. The stuff I'd book was a day on this, a day on that, but I get called in and called back 50 times for. Oh, what was another one that I was? Here's one. I can't. Blue's Clues. When they replaced the guy in Blue's Clues, they replaced Steve with another guy that was like his cousin or some shit. So I got called in a couple of times to read for the cousin. I'm standing, I wanted to do serious work. Like, I'm 24, 25, whatever. I'm thinking, I'm going to be the next whatever. But so, and there's no dog. And technology was somewhat primitive. You're not even looking at a monitor to see a dog. You're just looking at the floor and you're playing to Blue, the dog. Now I run into the kid years later, not a couple of years later, while he was still doing this guy. Okay, so
this was the guy who replaced Steve. Yes, the guy who got it.
He got it over me, and I knew someone that knew him, and I was standing on Wall Street, having a cigarette with this girl that knew him, and he lived across the street in a building across the street, and he was coming out to go somewhere, and she called him, and he came over and he talked, to him, and because of the nature of the show, the contract was so restrictive with Nickelodeon. He wasn't allowed to go into a bar.
Oof.
It was like all of this shit. And like at 25, I'm like, you know what? I'm good. Like it was a lot of lifestyle stuff in there.
And like we're not,
because of the nature.
Also
of the
to
show.
clarify, like we're not talking like the progressive lady Flo. She's like the spokesperson for progressive in a way that she has written into her contract what I believe is called a career suicide clause. That if they stop using her and she cannot get booked ever again, she's due a stipend for the rest of her career, give or take.
Because they've so pigeonholed
because
her,
she's Flo on TV for so long that in the event she can't get work, she effectively is working against that stipend. Like,
can I email Conrad that if I can't get work after hosting Kliq This for 10 years, they have to do something for me. They have to.
I'm sure you could
the rest of my life.
You and I both know his email. I think
mortgages, free mortgages.
I think we both know the answer as well. But I think, the second guy on Blue's Clues can't go into a bar. Like they're not paying him. They're not paying him keep up the kayfabe money. And which is funny because a lot of people who keep up the kayfabe are making even less than the replacement Steve on Blue's Clues.
Yeah, because those MTV contracts were not.
I think a lot of them are non-union. I wouldn't be shocked if this guy was some form of non-union or would have been AFTRA then.
It would have been AFTRA at the time before they merged SAG and AFTRA. It was two separate ones. The film stuff was SAG and then the TV. It was still very murky too between film and TV. Like some stuff, like Sopranos was TV, but it was a SAG contract.
Yeah.
Like Sex and the City was a SAG contract for me. Then, so they started to say, if it's shot on film, it's SAG. If it's shot on video, it went through. It made sense to merge, but it was really weird there for a while.
Well, but it's also weird that like at a certain point on HBO, Entourage, Sex and the City, and Sopranos would all be on HBO at the same time. But Entourage was AFTRA because it's shot on video. Mm-hmm. But then Sex and the City and Sopranos were SAG because it shot. Like, and how much of that is because it shot in New York as well?
I don't think it was region. I think it was the medium. It was how they were defining it at the time. This is 98, 99. Yeah.
Yeah, I've known it.
But I do, Steve, want to tell everybody that if keeping your dick hard is what's on your mind after a show like this, the place to have better sex with Blue Chew is with Blue Chew, by the way. BlueChew.com makes the process easy. Now, with the incredible BLUECHEW Max, which has arrived, it's Viagra and Cialis in one chewable tablet. This combo acts fast and lasts. That's the deal. Very strong. Guys, it's just about being ready, okay? You don't need some kind of dysfunction. Just pop a chewable tablet, and you know if anything happens that day, you're going to be ready to rock and roll. Best part about this, all done entirely online. Your online consultation, your prescriptions processed online. It shows up discreetly packaged at your door in just a couple of days. Make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. Don't forget the special deal. Try your first month of BlueChew free if you use the promo code NASH, N-A-S-H. Promo code NASH, pay $5 shipping, and then you can give it a shot. BlueChew.com. You go there for some more details about the process and some important safety information. We thank BlueChew for always sponsoring us, for being on board. I think they're our oldest and most strident advertiser. Thank you, BlueChew, for everything.
Some would say oldest and longest.
Oldest and longest, exactly. Exactly.
Don Dugan, with all this film talk, was there ever a role you really wanted and didn't get, but happy you didn't because it was terrible when it came out? You named 3 really incredible roles.
Yeah. No.
Incredible long-standing film and TV roles that you were up for at certain points. 4, actually. Was there ever anything that you read for it and then it turned out to be trash?
The stuff I got closest with, unfortunately, I'm sure there's little stuff that I read for that I didn't remember or ever see that was terrible. But all the stuff that I was like, hey, this might happen. Those 3, I got called back a few times for, what was the David Spade sitcom? News Radio?
Just Shoot Me?
No, News Radio? Maybe it wasn't.
No, that was
Who
David.
was on?
Phil Hartman was News Radio.
Okay, so
it was
News
Phil
Radio.
Hartman, Joe Rogan, and then Phil Hartman died while he was on that show.
Yeah, I got called back to be like the slacker kid they hire. I don't know who got the part, but I mean, it would have been a regular on News Radio.
I think you're describing the Joe Rogan part.
Oh, are we in the same age group? Okay.
I think you and Joe Rogan are in the same age. I think you're talking about
That
the slacker guy.
Yeah,
he was. He wasn't because he wasn't in the pilot.
Yeah, no, the show was already on, and they called me in to be an addition. So I read for the casting director. Then they had me go to CBS in New York, and I went to read. Here's a lesson for anybody that may be wondering about taking chances. You always hear stories about how Danny DeVito walked in and threw the Taxi script at the casting directors and said, "This is the biggest piece of shit I ever read." And they were like, "Oh my God, it's Louis De Palma." So I go in for this audition in CBS, and I decide that I'm gonna put my feet up on this executive's desk and shoot rubber bands around their room while I slump in the chair and deliver my lines. And you have to try that stuff, because I'd rather be wrong and remembered than correct and forgotten. But there was a moment I never counted on when the scene's over and I had to crawl around the room in silence and pick and find where all these rubber bands went, on shelves, on the dangling from the picture of the woman's son across the room. And it was nighttime and it was dimly lit in there. It was really weird. It was a really weird audition. But that was the News Radio one. So I didn't get that one. I didn't get Blue's Clues. I didn't get The Sopranos.
I'm fairly certain. So Joe Gorelli, who was cast as Joe Rogan was cast, is the station's street-smart electrician and handyman. He is notorious for his seemingly nonchalant approach to his profession. Believing that consumer products are ripoffs, he personally crafts his own supplies with gadgets around the office. I think you read for the Joe.
It might have been that one. Yeah.
If we're just putting together the thumbnail for this episode, it's you and then Jackie Aprile, the replacement Steve from Blue's Clues, Joe Rogan, like what could have been.
And then another one. Here's one more, and then we'll move on, because Kliq This starring Sean Oliver here today. Kev, you still on the phone?
He's definitely still on the
phone. I was in my first major film. I was in Philadelphia, the Jonathon Demme film. Now, being a film student, I just wanted to meet Jonathon Demme. He had just gotten the Oscar for Silence of the Lambs, and it's Jonathon Demme, and he couldn't have been the coolest. He couldn't have been nicer, cooler, just wonderful. Like, spent time with me. I had this little bullshit part. Spent time with me and introduced me to his family on set. Like, his wife and kids were there, and at one point he goes, Sean, he goes, I had to do what I had to do here. He goes, next film, nice big role, man, nice big role. I'm 19 hearing this, okay, like out of the gate. I'm like, this shit's easy. Yeah. So then I get a call to go to Mike Lemon's office for a film. I had no idea what it was. But I did know that, because they had to prepare us beforehand, that it was a rape scene of a slave woman that was going to be played by Oprah Winfrey.
Yes, Beloved.
They told us
it was
'98.
98.
Yeah. And then, so I audition, and I'm like leaving. It was like after the fact. And I hear that it's Jonathan's next film. So I'm like, done. Stedman's going to kick my ass on the set. And I never heard back. And I just never heard back. Not that I thought it was a guarantee, but I was like, because you play the odds for that drive home. And that drive home from Philly was 2 hours. Talk about a dedicated guy. I was like, you know what? New York's really busy. I may be able to make something happen in Philly. It's a 2-hour drive for the auditions, whatever. So I just started.
He shot Beloved in Philadelphia as well.
Yeah, he did. So anyway, yeah. So that was I didn't get that, but that would have been a decent one to be in.
You and Oprah.
Me and Oprah, yeah.
You could have been in that Virgin Atlantic flight. Like, we're just
right. That's true. I could have been on the movie.
Just really, it was that close. It was Jonathon Demme seeing your tape, is what it sounds like.
I thought this was going to be a 1 hour and 10-minute show. It's
or two.
We're at 4 hours now, aren't we? Or no, 2 hours. Sorry. Oh, they're good, but I don't want to shut anybody out. Are there good questions?
Ivan Garcia just wants to point out that Entourage was incredible until the movie ruined it. I don't consider the movie canon. That's how I do it.
I didn't do either. I didn't do the show or the. I never saw the show or the movie.
Edgar Watson wants to know: does Get Blitz make it more difficult to do a podcast on a personal level and or professional level?
Meaning what?
My read on that question is: does doing the podcast with Get Blitzed make it more difficult to podcast?
Because I'm blitzed?
Because you're blitzed. I would.
No, I'm additive free right now, because I've been up 12 hours. I told you I'd be snoring on you right now. But there's a case on the way because of course, the new drinks are out now, so they're going to send but I am going to imbibe slowly throughout the show, so I could be ready for bed when I'm done. So ask me next week, Edgar.
And Edgar,
if it's about,
maybe he's thinking because we're selling the Kliq This seltzer, that maybe it's like a personal professional. Let me know which if you mean something different there, Edgar.
Yep, dial it in. I'll answer it.
So sorry, Ivan Garcia. When I have asked stupid questions and Nash makes Sean laugh his fucking ass off, I took too much Get Blitzed. LOL.
No, it's just me. I'm a little delirious.
Yeah.
At this time,
but no, I think Ivan's talking about some of the questions he asks. Some of which that get on the air, some of which that don't. He's usually on the Get Blitzed.
Right.
Tyler Blair, who I meant to click on, did Demme ever talk about how he made Stop Making Sense?
No, and I would have loved to talk to him about it too, because he died far too young, right? Demme passed away at age, was he like 60 or something like that? It was really young.
He was 73.
Okay, not 60 fucking at all. But
he stopped making films in 2015.
Yeah.
It was Ricky in the Flash.
I kept in touch with him too. They put me in my first film. So like I drop him a line. He did a documentary about his cousin who was a priest called Cousin Bobby, which was great. And I just shot him a line, and I always got a call back, thanking me for the letter. And so years later, after all this, I'm at Sound One in the Brill building in New York, which they've turned into condos, Steve. I could vomit on myself right now. The Brill building, the building that all the old record studios were in, and people would be writing for RCA in this room, and Sinatra's down the hall laying a track for MCA, and there's a couple of songwriters down. Ellie Greenwich is writing a song downstairs. That incredible building, and then they turned them into sound studios for film. I would get to work in fucking Sound One. There it is. Now it's a CVS downstairs. I was going to tell you that.
LED screens.
Oh,
looks like luxury,
God.
like gym stuff.
And I go on the roof and smoke cigarettes, and it was in Times Square. And if where that point is, if you just look straight down, it's where the ball drops in Times Square. That must have been the best spot on New Year's Eve. I'd never go, but anyway. So I step outside one time, and I'm having a cigarette. I'm doing whatever upstairs. This is years after I started in the business. I'm maybe in my 40s or whatever. And Demme steps out next to me, and he's having a cigarette. He doesn't. I mean, he hasn't seen me since I was in Philadelphia. He's not going to remember me. But I turned to him. I said, "Hey, you're never going to remember me, but I just want to thank you. Like, you gave me my first break. You put me in my first movie and showed me as a kid that you can do this for a living. It's not necessarily a pipe dream. There's people working it, and you treated me like your equal, and everyone, and you ran a great set, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Yeah, no problem. What are you working on up your stairs? What are you working on upstairs?" And then I never saw him again, and then he died. But I was glad I got to have that little moment with him years after the fact.
I think they're starting to turn on us a little. Alette Bellinger wants to know, I want to know if Kevin will be here for the next show.
Yeah,
yes.
He'll be here. This was 1 week that he couldn't, and we wanted to do something for everybody rather than just call it off. But he's here every week, as a matter of fact.
Well, he's currently on the phone.
Okay, yeah, he's over there. He's over there,
brother.
And so yes, sorry.
I'll end on this one. Edgar Watson wants to know, how are you and how is your family?
Boy, did we fucking run out of gas. Boy, that's the final episode. I am great. How could I complain? How can I complain, Edgar? My kids are healthy. My wife is healthy. Everyone has their days where you feel like you're gonna lose your fucking mind, but really, how can you complain, right? You gotta take an honest inventory. So I'm great, Edgar. How are you? And I can remind everyone that Kliq This is a production of Butch and Sundance Media, produced in association with Podcast Heat, created by Tristan Nash, Kevin Nash, and Sean Oliver, producer Steve Kaufman, graphics by Dominic D'Angelo, title sequence and audio edit by Wesley Burleson, theme song by Dale Oliver, technical research by Tristan Nash. Hey, is Kevin going to be here next week? She was the best, whoever that was. Copyright 2025, Butch and Sundance Media. Kev, Paul, do you want to do another one?
Customer service never answers the thing. Let us free to breathe in air we're supposed to breathe. Through twists and turns you've come to love. Now I'm cold, I'm frozen. Baby, never answers the never